What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Plain Jane Cars, and this is a Plain Jane Cars podcast. I'm thinking I have to come up with a new intro, but I love that intro. So, first of all, thank you for listening. If you're listening, we're available on all podcast platforms, but if you're listening, you know that. Tell a friend to tell a friend. But also, if you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate you watching. Little story time before we bring our guest on. So a lot of people have, not a lot of people, few people have asked me, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm like, it's kind of a hobby. I like creating content. And it popped in my head. I think it was in December of last year. I'm like, man, I listened to one or two podcasts, and I started seeing YouTube content creators kind of do a side gig where they're doing these podcasts to supplement content creation. And I said, man, I like talking to people. Like, I love being conversational. Maybe I could do a podcast. So I put a poll out on YouTube. I got 2 replies. Both of them were yes. I asked, should I do podcast style content? And I said, well, let's try it. So I did the home thing. And now we're in the studio. The interesting thing is the guest that we have on today, I've told him this before in private, and I've said it in public. If you want to hear the full story of how I got started in content creation, go back to the first episode, Who is Plain Jane? But I didn't really go into depth about this part of it because I wanted to do it when he was actually on the show. Beto, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Beto is probably one of the most talented people I know. And I mean that sincerely. I'm surrounded by talented people, and I'm not saying it just because.
Yeah.
But the reason why I say that is, if you like what I'm doing, thanks to Beto. If you don't like what I'm doing, blame Beto. You may not remember.
Oh, I remember.
I had no clue what I was doing. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what things were called. I remember we just wanted to do before Reels. Yeah. Before Reels were Reels.
Yep.
I saw you created this video for Matt and the guys at A1 AutoWorks. Shout out to Matt and Mark.
Yes.
And Mark lived in the same apartment complex.
He was my neighbor.
Yeah, and you're
my neighbor, like,
out there flying a drone.
Yeah. I mean, we had lived across from each other for maybe a year or two.
Sure.
And he would see me every now and again testing my drones out, and we just kind of connected that way, And right when I was trying to get into the space of doing it commercially,
sure,
trying to earn some sort of living out of flying my drones, he was the first person that I thought of, and I was like, let me make a video for you. You don't have to pay me. I just need the content,
exposure.
I need exposure.
That's right.
All that stuff. And he was gracious enough to let me come in, film something. And at that time they had that. They
had the brick and mortar. Yeah, they had a store.
Shop. And yeah, we flew through it. Your car was in it, but you weren't there.
I wasn't there.
You weren't there.
As everybody knows, I dropped my car off. I normally do not hang out or anything. I wasn't, but I saw the video.
Yeah.
And I immediately reached out to those guys. I said, who is this guy? What is this? They're like, oh yeah, I told you it's this FPV guy. Cool dude too. Immediately vouched. I said, well, I'm gonna hit him up. And I can't even remember how we connected, whether it was Instagram or phone.
It was Instagram.
Was it through Instagram?
Yeah, it was Instagram. You hit me up immediately because I had tagged your car.
That's what it was. Yes.
So you hit me up immediately, and you were like, oh, we need to get a video. We need to make something, of just my car. And after that we just set it up. We set up some shoot near Katy.
Yep. I still have
sunset.
that video. I do have that video, and I'm gonna put that in this video.
Yes.
And what we're gonna do, if you're not watching it, I mean, of course, if you're listening to this, that's so awesome. This episode is going to have some cool footage in it.
Yes, so you should switch over to watching it.
Go to YouTube. I implore you to check it out on YouTube too. There's going to be cool stuff in here. And you'll be able to see the progression that Beto's been through because that was in 2018.
That was 3 years ago.
No, 2019.
That was 3 years ago.
No,
almost 4 years. Almost 4 years.
So when I started my channel.
Before everything.
2019.
Crazy.
That is crazy.
I mean, time flies. It goes by so fast.
So I'm watching Beto do his thing, right? And he thinks he was at the beginning. I know you've made some progress.
I was at the beginning of my commercials.
Side. I agree.
So
you knew what you were doing.
I had been flying those drones for a few years up until that point, but it just never really occurred to me doing it for money, doing it for a living, And so, when I started seeing those videos and I had the gear, I was like, oh, I can do it. Yeah, I can do this, And so I started, and like I said, Matt and Mark, they're the first ones that just sort of gave me that opportunity to just sort of make something happen. And then, I mean, the rest is history.
Well, we're going to tell the story. It ain't history. It is history, but we're going to get into that history. When we did that video, before Reels were Reels, we did a video together. My car, I'll stitch it in right here. But it's just this, probably one of the most immersive visual and video experiences that I had up until that point. I've been to 3D movies, all that kind of good stuff, but I'd never seen, and seeing it in practice, right? He has these goggles on, and he's in the passenger seat of the car with me. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that.
The hard podcast with the goggles.
Yeah, with the goggles on, like that's the realest. So he has these goggles on. He can't see, right? He has these two screens in front of him, and he's in a passenger seat with a remote control in his hand, and I'm driving. And he's talking to me, and I'm like, "Are you okay, bro?" He was like, "Yeah, no, go ahead, start driving. I got it." And I see the drone go up, and we take off, and I'm like, "This is cool." And in that moment, whether you believe it or not, that's when I said, I think I said it to you, we should vlog this.
Oh yeah.
That was the birth of that is the true birth of Plain Jane Cars.
I didn't totally
it was with you.
That. Yeah, I didn't totally know that. That
100%.
was the moment that you sort of like got, I was like, oh, I should start vlogging what I'm doing.
100%. Because my entire intention was just to make a video for Instagram, because I saw Matt and Mark did it and it was cool. I was like, this looks cool. And it wasn't even to get views or likes. I was like, this just looks
a creative outlet.
Cool.
Yeah.
But when I looked at him in the passenger seat with the goggles on, and we did a couple fun things with the car with traction and all. And it was so exhilarating even for me driving and seeing a drone fly by as we finished the little pull we were doing. I was like, and that next week I said, man, would you do this again with like a few cars? And Beto said, sure.
Absolutely.
So I got a couple guys that we lined up, and that was the first vlog. So if you didn't know this, you are literally the reason why I am sitting here today. 100%.
I honestly didn't know. But
100%.
But it's it goes both ways, like I didn't know either at the time what I was doing or what I was even pursuing, you know. And you were kind of the first one to really like open my eyes to this is a whole avenue of
it's a thing.
It's a whole thing of content creation.
I was on Beto's back every week. I'm like, come on, let's do another one, bro. I'm like, yo, you talented. I was like, this dude, you got something.
Thank you, dude. I counted how many times we did, like how many videos we've done. And we've done, I think, somewhere around like 13 or 14 videos.
Wow, that's so cool.
We've done quite a bit.
I appreciate it, because I felt
we'll go through them. We'll go through them.
We have to. I'm gonna have to drop them into this video. It was just so, I've never been around somebody that was more helpful, because I had no clue. I mean, things like, this may sound unbelievable to the podcast to an extent, and I can understand if you guys think this is hyperbole. Take it with a grain of salt. I started recording with my phone.
I remember that.
Yes.
You had a gimbal.
Yeah, gimbal. I went and bought it just before we did that shoot.
I remember that.
And I have the footage in my phone, and I say, Beto, how do I make a video out of it? Literally. And you were like, oh yeah, bro. He's like, it's pretty easy. Like, I'm like, well, what are you doing? Like, well, I mean, you can do it on your phone, but I use this program called Premiere Pro.
Right.
And I went and Googled Premiere Pro.
So you didn't even have like a full-on editor at that moment.
I didn't know what video I didn't even know. I came home and I told my family, the kids were a little younger at the time. And my daughter was like, well, you can do it in iMovie too. I was like, what is iMovie? Right? I had and of course you guys are like, come on, Charles. No. And Beto when I figured out how to render the first video, I brought my laptop to you and I said, I can't find the video. Where is it? Do you remember that?
I don't, dude. I don't remember that.
It meant so much to me. You sat there and you're like, yeah, man, this is kind of buried. Like where you're exporting to is like sub-file of sub-file of sub. Yeah, you were like, it's really buried. He's like, but here it is right here. And you created a shortcut.
That's awesome.
See, you don't even know, bro. Awesome. I was so, people say I was in the infancy stages of doing something. Dude, I was in the embryo. I wasn't even born yet. No, it was.
Well, I remember you didn't have the gear. You didn't have nothing, you know? And then about I think it was like the third video that we've done. I think it was the Texas M meet. I think that's when you started like, bringing
that's what I'm going
more
for.
Equipment. Yeah,
that's what I'm going for it because, and it's not one thing I will say, and I think I want you to talk to this too. It's not really about the equipment because there's some content creators that's doing amazing stuff, but very
simple stuff. Yes,
very simple.
Yes.
So it's not, but I will say, if you have the skills and you develop the skills, the tools do start to make a difference at a certain point.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. When you know how to use those tools like to your advantage, that's when it matters.
It matters.
Right.
It does matter. I'm pretty sure you didn't know to that extent, and you probably don't even remember. See, this is to let you guys know how genuine and kind a person is when they do something that's so meaningful to another person, and they're just like, oh no, I did that? Like, yes, you did. I literally vended a video. It took me 2 days.
Wow.
2 whole days, probably 16 hours.
Yeah.
A lot of YouTube University on like how to even the shortcuts and like how do you import? Like it was stuff like that. Like how do you get the files from your download folder into Premiere? I was doing that level stuff and just wanted to stitch it all together. And I exported it and I couldn't find it. It was so deflating. I was like, I cannot find this video. I exported it twice. Now I'm getting the error message. And we were going to do a shoot. I think it's when we did, I can't remember. It's one of the shoots we did. Oh, in the woods.
The Texas M.
We did Texas M.
Yeah,
that's when you showed me. That's what you said. Because I was like, bro, I don't know what this is. And you're like, you grab, I said, I brought my laptop. You're like, oh yeah, let me look real quick. And then you're like, why are you paying for like the Creative Cloud, bro? You should have done it this way. It's like, you gave me so much advice. Thank you. That's one point to say that. Thank you, bro.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, like when I see a content creator grow like that, it helps me as well. Like it's a two-way thing.
100%.
You know?
100%.
And so like I elevate you just as much as you elevate me.
Appreciate that.
You know?
Yeah,
so,
I agree. So tell us a little bit about your story, right? Like, I like to go all the way back, and normally I'm doing car stories, but what I'm really trying to learn here, if y'all haven't noticed, is how to help people tell their story, right? So where did it start?
Dude, I would say it started in 2016. I was really into just drones. I was going to school for mechanical engineering at the time. So naturally, I just have like this, I like to tinker with stuff, build stuff, so it was sort of like, it was just sort of natural. When I saw FPV and, I saw it on YouTube, I saw some guys like, ripping some mountains in Hawaii, like, have you seen the Staircase to Heaven?
I have.
So I saw
it's one of the first videos you told me to go look at.
Yes. And that really is what drew me in, and so that year I had a birthday. I was able to gather up enough money, and I said, well, I want a drone. What kind of drone do I get? Do I get a normal DJI
like a
drone?
DJI?
Or
you taught me AP drone.
Yes, AP
You
drone.
actually taught me that.
Aerial
photography. Thank
yes.
you, sir. I wouldn't know that without you. That's true.
And then I just or FPV drones, and I was like, you know what, like let's go to the new stuff. This is unknown. You got to build it yourself.
Right. There were no kits. There were no manufacturers
kits.
doing like what we would call ready to run, kind of,
ready to fly. I'm sorry,
ready to fly.
Binding flies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where nowadays they're just built. They're built
DJI makes an FPV drone.
Yes,
essentially.
They actually make 2 of them.
That's right. They came out with a new one that's really like a true FPV drone, not like the first one.
I mean, it gives you both. It gives you like it flies itself for you, and it kind of like helps you, and it has good safety features built in.
Sure.
But then it also has like a manual mode where it's like full on FPV.
Yeah.
If you like let go, it's dropping.
It's gonna drop. Yeah, you're in control. Yeah.
And so yeah, and I spent like probably like 3 months or so, like just researching, building on the side, learning how to fly on the simulator at the same time.
Sure.
And by the time I finished building my drone, it was probably like December of 2016, almost like January. And at that point, that's when I started flying and learning in real life, and it just sort of took off, there. Like it was an obsession. It still is. It's
it is an
like,
obsession.
Like every single day having to go out, practice, crash. You crash, you break something, you got to fix it. So it becomes a whole feedback loop.
It is.
And it's awesome.
It is awesome.
You get this sense of adrenaline that you get, doing like just high intensity like action sports. Like
sure,
it's the same feeling. It's exactly
because you're really. I mean, You've obviously given me goggles before. You've given me the screen to watch as he's flying. And what I will say for me, I'm one of those people, like certain video games make me I don't know if motion sick is the right word, but I get that
Sure.
woozy feeling, whatever that is,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Same thing with certain vloggers, right? When they're whipping the camera around a lot and I'm watching it on TV, I get that spatial head fog feeling.
Sure.
He dived a building downtown one time, and I had to stop looking. I was like, it really feels.
It feels like you're falling.
A little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like for me, it felt like that, right? I'm up people, and we will insert some footage here of him diving the building. It's really, it can be intense.
It is
for
intense.
a person like me. For a person like me, I was like, "What the heck, bro? What do you do? You can do that?" And I was like, remember me asking? I was like, "You don't ever feel?" You're like, "Yeah," but at first, but I got used to it. I'm like,
I got used to it.
"There's no way in the world I could get used to that."
Because it takes a while. Like your brain is really good at adapting itself to certain situations if you like consistently. Expose it to it.
That's true.
So like for me, it took me like a good 2 weeks before that feeling of just kind of like vertigo, motion sickness.
That's vertigo. That's the word. Yes.
Yeah.
Vertigo.
It's like a vertigo, motion sickness, and like you're also getting used to looking through that lens, right?
Yes.
Which is like a fisheye lens.
It is.
So you're getting used to that perception change.
Yeah.
But after about like 2-3 weeks of just doing it every day, consistently for hours, your brain just sort of rewires itself.
It becomes first nature, not even second nature, right? It's first nature.
Exactly.
So I'll say this, and I like to stay away from examples like this because it's morbid and it doesn't really make sense, but it almost feels like when he dives a building, like you're almost falling.
You are. So
it really feels like that.
The drone itself is literally in free fall, like to do a move like that where you bring the drone all the way up to the building, you have to let go of the sticks completely to lose altitude. So you're
actually falling.
You're actually
I didn't realize
in free
that.
fall, and you're just sort of like correcting the drone as it's falling, and then you pick it up as it's approaching ground level.
Okay, so what was the first drone that got you in the game? Give us some dimensions and size. He bought a few drones in here too today. We're going to actually look at some of what he has. But what was the first one that got you in?
So the first drone that I saw that I wanted was like this really, really tiny drone that you can fly like indoors.
Okay.
It's like they call it like a little tiny whoop, right? It's
because I remember you center whoop. That's kind of the one with the guards on it, right?
Exactly.
Right. So it's safe to fly.
And and back in the day, like they had these little toy ones that they didn't have brushless motors, right? They were brush motors, so they were a lot less powerful and stuff. But they were toy grade.
It's a toy.
Super cheap.
Yeah.
Very good for like entry level people trying to learn, to get into FPV. So I got one of those, but then I wanted something a little bit more powerful, something I can fly outside. I ended up upgrading to something bigger. We go by propeller size.
That's right.
Right?
5 inch?
So, yeah,
or not
5. No, at that point I went to a 3 inch.
3. That makes sense because 5 is.
They're powerful.
Yeah, they can be, right?
They're powerful, and they're the standard. Like
that's the race. The guys that race them are racing 5s, right?
Yeah, 5s and 6s. That's pretty much what they're racing.
Okay,
and it's mostly because of the physics, right? Like the weight compared to like gravity and stuff. It just has the best feelings of physics.
Okay,
and so. A 3 and a 3, 4, it's not as powerful to like really throw the drone and play with the momentum of like the weight.
If you never watched drone racing, DRL, I think it's called.
Yes, DRL.
Google or YouTube Drone Racing League.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's insane what they do.
The abilities that these dudes have adapted to, and the twitch. Yeah, I mean, it's out of this world. Out of this world. I mean, it's one of those ones where I love having a conversation with people about what is an athlete.
Yes.
They're athletes.
100%.
They're athletes.
The amount of information they're processing is absolutely insane.
Insane. And the courses that they're flying through at the speeds that they're flying through and doing the maneuvers, you can't even develop muscle memory. I mean, you just have to, I mean, some of it is muscle memory, of course.
Sure.
But a lot of it is developing that ability to like
react
instantly, like almost
before you think.
Yeah. It's before you process it almost.
You're turning the corner
yes.
before you're thinking about turning the corner.
Yes.
Like, it's crazy.
It's kind of a little bit of like, if you didn't listen to the episode with Brian, go back. It's just before this episode with Beto where we talked about being a race car driver. It's like that you develop an instinct, I think. Those guys. Anyway, Drone Racing League, go check it out. It'll make you appreciate what Beto does from a cinematic perspective.
Sure. No, they do amazing things.
Those guys are crazy. I watched that. I'm like, it's hard to even watch. It's like hockey to me.
It is hard.
It's actually hard to follow because it's
so
like,
fast.
how are they moving it that
and that's why
fast?
they have the lights and stuff on them, just so we can see.
Yeah, so you can see.
Because they're just going so fast, and they're relatively small.
True.
You know, so it's hard to broadcast a sport like that.
So what made you pick the lane that you went in? Because there's a lot of different lanes in
FPV,
in drones in general, right?
Drones in general.
So give you a little bit. I have a buddy, and we've worked with him. He does aerial photography, and it's all really around real estate, right?
Yeah.
So he has some bigger DJI drones. He goes up and he does mapping and all that kind of stuff. And that's one pipeline, work with pipeline right away stuff.
Yep.
That's a lane, right? That's a lane.
Yeah.
But what made you pick the lane that you went in with FPV?
I don't know. Like, there's something about content creation, you know, like just making cool content that kind of resonates with people, you know, and the more I made cool stuff like related to cars and stuff, like, or if I have like subject matters, you know, just people were really like engaging with that sort of content, you know. Yeah. And then when you came along, started, you know, offering me gigs to film your car, and then other people started chiming in, I was like, oh, this is, you know, this is a whole thing. This is a whole lane, like, of content creation, of, you know, and then at that point I started getting exposed to kind of like the film industry, the local film industry. I started meeting some of those people, and then learning that we can apply some of what I do into their productions, you know. You just need the right gear, you know. And so that's when I started scaling up in gear, getting better cameras, getting better drones, you know, and just sort of like trying to establish myself kind of in that, you know, in that industry, in that local filmmaking industry, as, you know, the FPV guy. That's right. Because there's not a lot of people here in Houston that do it. Which is
so shocking to me. And not shocking, that's an exaggeration. Surprising.
Yeah.
Because it's such a big town.
It's huge. It's huge. But there's only like, I don't know, maybe like 4 people who are doing it.
In a real, like, seriously, right?
Seriously, full time. As a career, you know, there's people who do it on the side, you know, that pick up a drone and it's fun to do and it's cool, but, you know, very few are doing it full time, you know, back to back, you know, just production after production. You know? And so there's not a lot of competition.
I want to show, well, you're ahead of the competition at this point. I want to show some of the equipment that he brought. But before we do that, what was your first professional gig? Like, I would say it was with me, but no, but no, your first real pro, because you have to get your part. What is it called?
Yes, you have to get your license for it, which is it's called the Part 107 certificate.
Part 107. I couldn't think of it. Yes. Yeah, Part 107.
It's an easy test, 60 questions, you know, and it's all about like aeronautical charts.
I mean, it's like being a pilot, essentially, right?
It's kind of like being a pilot. You have to be aware of certain things that, you know, real pilots have to be aware
of, which makes sense, you know? Yeah. So post Part 107, what was the one that made you say?
Honestly, so the first real gig that I got using my Part 107, where I was specifically asked to provide my Part 107 with insurance. And
do you have insurance? Yeah, yes, that gig. That's what I'm looking for.
It was with the Space Center Houston.
I thought it was.
Yeah, they reached out to me.
Wait. See how fast he said that? The space. NASA, fool, like the space, you know. Houston, we have a problem?
Yeah. Continue. So they reached out to me, and I don't know if you remember at the time, a lot of people saw this video because it went pretty viral. There's this bowling video that, you know, of FPV going through this bowling alley. Yeah. And that caught pretty much everywhere, you know, news outlets.
Like, what is this?
It was nuts. And so the director of communications to the Space Center had seen that video. Perfect. And he was like, we have to find a pilot, you know? Yeah. And I got lucky enough that the graphic designer was already following me on Instagram. And so that was sort of the in. And
the power of social media.
It's insane. Like,
as poisonous as it can be, but it's very powerful.
Networking
too.
Is so powerful.
It's insane.
Most of, if not all of my professional gigs have been through networking.
Social media. Sure.
All of it. Sure. All of it. And most of it comes through Instagram.
I can believe that.
it's a double-edged sword, you know, like, you know, it can be a detriment, but it can be also a very positive thing if you know how to use it.
It's all on how you use it, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry to distract you. But
No worries.
Graphic designer, following you on Instagram.
And
right?
so they reached out and they wanted basically something similar to the bowling alley, you know, just fly through the museum, fly inside the 747.
Such a cool video.
Insane. Like that to me, thank you. That opportunity was just, I mean, quite literally after that, it was like blasting off. You know, just clients after that.
No pun intended.
Dude, it was insane. It was insane. And so that was the first major one, and it just kind of got the ball rolling to like bigger productions.
I felt in some way, you know, watching, because you've taken off, which makes me proud, literally, right? I'm saying it in a complimentary way. But when I knew it is when I saw the Minute Maid one. Oh, like I thought Houston, the Space Center one was so cool, but to me it still felt like he's there. Like I see it coming. When I saw you fly Minute Maid Park, I was like, that's the one. That's the one.
Yeah, that was a fun little gig. That was directly with the Astros.
Yes.
And they were shooting something in partnership with Lexus. Right, like because you know they have brands that sponsor them, and so this new Lexus was coming out. I forgot which model. We'll throw it up on there so you guys can see. And basically it was all centered around this car, you know. And so it's funny because like all the shoots that we had done leading up to that point was all cars, you know. So I felt like I had more than enough practice for that moment, you know. And so I was able to just execute immediately, you know, and get all the shots that were asked of me. And I mean, and they came out amazing.
It did.
You know,
it did. So. Let's show these people a little bit of your equipment. Let's start with the smallest drone, and this is kind of, sort of. I know you flew the Cinewhoop when we first started filming together, and something similar to this.
Yeah. So when we started flying together, I flew this guy. Right. It's a 5-inch drone. It just carries a GoPro on there, and it can go really fast. It can go probably, you know, over 99 miles an hour. The legal limit is 99.
So it does 99.
But it's capable. It's capable of more. And then also, I didn't bring it with me, but also we also filmed with that little Cinewhoop, the tiny slow one that mimics kind of like gimbal movements.
Yes.
You know, and so we did a lot of that, you know, practicing a lot of that.
Yes.
And then just afterwards when production started asking me for something better than a GoPro, because GoPros you can only stretch so far, especially if you're trying to match with the camera they're using.
Right.
You know, you can really tell the difference.
So is it, I don't know, I'm about to probably embarrass myself because I don't understand camera equipment, but I know there's like bit rate and stuff like that, right?
Yes.
The amount of data and shooting in RAW.
That's
and
a
stuff
big
like
thing, yeah.
Okay.
And GoPros, they do have limitations, right? I think they film like 8-bit. You know, they have like a flat color profile, but it's not as flexible as, you know, other cameras. So you can't really push the colors. You know, once you start really pushing it, the image will start to break down. You get noise.
It gets grainy and stuff.
Artifacting. And you know, just nasty stuff. And so at that point, that's when I was like, okay, I need to, if I'm considering this for real and wanting to get into higher end productions, I need a better camera, you know, and better cameras are bigger. And so I need a bigger drone for that. And so I ended up building this thing right here. We call this Pigeon, and it's a 7-inch drone, right?
Oh, wow.
It's larger.
It's a lot bigger.
Yeah, it's much larger. And what I did was I basically grabbed the Blackmagic Pocket 4K.
Yes.
And I completely stripped it apart to its bare bones. I took it apart.
Do you mind saying how much a Blackmagic 4K costs?
It's about $1,200, just the body.
He bought a body of a camera, just took it all apart.
Yeah, to gut it completely. I put it in this carbon housing in here. We printed some 3D, you know, printed parts to put like.
Oh, that's the sensor right there.
Sensor.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
We got some custom made ribbon cables so we can completely just, you know, move the sensor to, you know, your desired angle.
Oh, that's dope.
And then also to preserve the original screen. So I can attach the original screen through the back and still able to mess with my settings, change from B-RAW to ProRes and all that stuff.
No way, dude.
It's a pretty, you know.
That's cool. So would you say that's the workhorse? Maybe?
Yes, right now this is the workhorse.
Okay.
You know, so I have this rig and then I have a larger Cinewhoop a 5-inch Cinewoop that also carries the exact same camera.
I didn't know they make a 5-inch Cinewoop.
Yeah. Oh, they make them bigger. They make them
really.
Yeah.
So what's the advantage to having a large Cinewoop?
So first, to carry a bigger payload.
Okay.
Carry a bigger camera.
Sure, bigger camera. That makes sense.
But for the most part, it's all about the propeller guards, right? So like you can fly
closer to
people.
Makes sense.
You can fly indoors.
Didn't think about that. Okay.
You know, all that stuff. You know, and so and also carrying the nicer camera.
Yeah.
So you have that ability, but with a nicer camera.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that is the workhorse for the most part. I film pretty much almost everything exclusively with these guys, the Blackmagic.
So just, I mean, I hate talking about money, but roughly full rig, front to back, top to bottom, done. How much you got into it for somebody that's interested
with the labor, because
you have to labor for sure.
You have to build it yourself.
Yep. It's time.
There's no kits for it. No. You just have to.
I mean, you talk about 3D printing stuff.
Yeah.
Custom ribbons, like
you're looking at about $5,000.
Wow.
Just the whole rig.
Dude, that's sick. I mean, that's kind of like a decent camera rig. Like if you're getting into like
exactly, if you're getting into
professional cinema,
exactly.
$5,000 actually is a decent entry point. Believe it or not,
it's not bad.
It's not unreasonable, actually.
Especially if you have jobs lined up. Yeah. Where eventually you're going to pay it off. It's
an
worth
investment.
It. Yeah, it really is. It really is. That's how I've looked at it.
One of the things I'll say, guys, like for our listeners, you have seen more and more FPV footage in commercials, in every advertising, more than movies. Like it is extraordinarily mainstream now.
Yeah, it's starting to really pop off.
Like really pop off. Because being around you, I laugh because I know instantly, and I irritate my family. Like, so and so's using FPV.
Yeah.
Every car manufacturer, every car manufacturer debuts a new car.
The Prius that they just all FPV.
If it's say a 2-minute video, 1 minute and 45 seconds is on an FPV drone. Like they'll do a couple cinematics on a gimbal, and that's probably on a Cinewoop. Actually, just like, everything is because they're so immersive, and it's like I wonder what those like. Cinematic helicopter operators, like they have to be, because that's what it used to be, right? You used to have to get
still is like
a real helicopter to get those shots, like those.
If you guys look up Fred North, he's a helicopter pilot that works in movies.
Okay.
And that's all he does. And he's like flying 30 feet off the ground.
Legit.
In the city.
Yeah.
Through buildings. Like,
I mean, that's how you got
crazy.
those shots, right? Like, so whatever movie you've watched, action movie you watch, you got this
he most likely
car like driving through the city, through these buildings, and you get a lot of the times they're not in a car, right? They're not. Sometimes they're in a chase car, but a lot of times they're actually in a helicopter with a gimbal on the front of it and a camera operator, right?
Yep.
You guys are putting them out of work.
Yeah. It's getting there.
I mean, as you get to
because it's cheaper. Right, like insurance is cheaper,
safer.
Our rates are cheaper, they're safer,
safer.
And so I mean, it's going that route.
You have a helicopter that you brought.
Yes.
Quadcopter, I guess they call it. Whatever you want to call it. This thing is like
this is called an X8 because it's got 8 motors on it. You got a motor on the bottom and on the top.
I don't even know if you can pick this up for the camera. Is it possible?
It's pretty big. It's pretty heavy.
Look at this thing. Just the size of it. That's just
It's pretty massive.
It's just amazingly huge.
And
amazingly huge.
The purpose of the size really is to carry. It's always based on payload, right? Like what are we trying to carry, and what kind of camera are we trying to carry, lens, all that stuff. And so this rig particularly is to carry a gimbal setup. You put a gimbal either at the top, basically floating at the above the drone, or we can reverse the batteries and put the batteries on top and put the gimbal on the bottom.
Okay.
So it just really depends on what kind of
shot you're trying to get. It's almost like how I have a very little experience with a gimbal, but sometimes you want to do those low slung shots when you need the, you want to fly closer to the ground to get that effect.
To get that motion blur. Exactly.
Yeah, motion blur. That's it. See, he knows the technical terms. I like where it go real fast. I have no clue what I'm talking about. I enjoy doing it, but I have no technical knowledge whatsoever.
No, you're a natural.
Man, that is I mean. Anyway, how much? Because we all want to know. I mean, I have it on camera. Hopefully the editors can stitch this in.
Sure.
I mean, can I guess?
Go for it. With a payload, with the gimbal.
With the gimbal,
with
camera,
like,
No, I'm
like
saying.
a Komodo camera.
It's taking off like it's flying.
Yeah.
20 grand. At least.
Yeah, you're in the ballpark.
At least.
Yeah, you're in the ballpark.
Good God.
You're in the ballpark.
That is insane. But I understand, like, just to let you guys know, like what he said, like a Komodo dragon or a red or an airy. I mean, you can get a camera
FX6 or something. Usually
with no glass.
That's almost
that
half
costs
the
that
cost.
much.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, with no glass. Like you haven't even got on a lens or a gimbal, and you're spending 10 grand maybe.
Easy.
So it's not. I mean, those numbers add up quickly, but
very
the camera itself and the lenses. In the gimbal.
That's about half of it.
Yeah, you're like, you can be 10, 12 grand there just by itself. Yeah. And then you have that beast. What does that sound like?
It's crazy loud. It's so it's deafening. Like it's scary.
12S.
Yes, 12S, meaning that it's 12 cells. Each one is like 4.2 volts. So I mean,
whatever that math is, y'all can get out a calculator.
It's high voltage. Yeah. And yeah, man, it flies crazy fast, you know. And so we can put like a large camera, Komodo with a big lens, you know, and still be able to go over 99, you know. And so that's really the purpose of this. It's exclusively to carry a larger camera.
Yeah, big pin. So could you carry like one of the airy, like a full cinema?
Not like a. No, you could. Maybe like an Airy Mini.
Yeah, like an Airy Mini. Mini LF or whatever. Yeah.
I can probably carry one of those.
Yeah.
But anything bigger than that, you're gonna need a bigger drone.
Yeah, you need a bigger. I just thought about that. There's
and they make
no
them.
way.
They make them.
Really?
Oh, dude, they make giant drones
for like
that are FPV.
No way.
Oh yeah. So this one is a 10-inch drone, 10-inch props.
Okay.
And they make them all the way up to like 15, 13.
Wow.
You know, so
that
really big drones.
So you've you cracked into the professional world. You have a name. You have a brand, which I'm so.
Yes,
bro, y'all don't know. I was cheering this fool on. I was like, bro, we be riding home from a shoot. I'm like, yo, you special, bro. You need to keep doing this, man. I ain't lying.
Because when we met, I wasn't even going by BetoFPV.
No.
I just had my normal.
I was like, we need to come up with a name. He was like, yeah, I hate my name. I was like, we got to come up with something, bro, because, you know, you about to be somebody. I said that to you. I don't know if you remember.
No,
I was like,
I do. You were very supportive.
Nah. Everybody that met you, everybody's like, bro, like they would tell me behind, you know, like you just talk about like, bro, that dude is crazy. Because, you know, you guys know, my listeners know, I have fortunately know some friends that have some pretty nice cars and stuff like that.
Yes.
One of the things you not worried about, but you're like, hey, you sure they're going to be okay with me flying around?
Actually, I remember the first time that was actually a real concern of mine is when we met up. I believe his name is Hussein.
Yes.
And the man in the machine.
Yeah. Cesar.
Cesar, yeah.
Two Lamborghinis,
two
bro.
Huracans. We had them, and we went somewhere downtown, like on the outskirts of downtown, so we can see the skyline.
Yep.
I think it was by Ecclesia.
Yeah, Ecclesia. Yep.
Yeah,
that's exactly where it was. Yeah. Right behind there.
And super early in the morning, and I remember seeing like Cesar's face.
He was
just like
worried.
He was a little worried.
I walked over to said,
this thing is like going
He's
circles around
like,
the car.
He's really close to the I was like, trust him.
That was the first time really kind of dealing with a client that was truly worried and like, you know, his expectations of like, hey, you know, and so just balancing that, you know, figuring out what I can do and where that limitation
was. How close could I be?
Exactly.
I remember
which is pretty close.
He walked over to me, funniest thing in the world. He walked over to me, he's like, man, he's flying really close to the car. I was like, wait until you see the footage. Typical salesperson, right? I'm like, oh, don't worry about it. It's going to be cool. It's going to be cool.
Turned out awesome. Dope. I mean, that was one of my favorite shoots.
Dope.
Yeah, so cool.
So what's next, man? What's on? I always ask people about the vision board because I'm encouraging anybody to be around me. But gotta have goals, right? You know what you want to do. Speak it into existence. What's next for you?
So my main goal really is to break out into feature films. Like that's what I want to do eventually, is being able to see my shots in a movie. That's the ultimate goal, and to stay there, right? Like, be consistent.
Beto is going to be in the credits of a movie before the end of 2024. I said it.
I hope so.
All 5 of my listeners now know it's going to happen.
You got more, bro. You got more than
maybe
that.
more than
you
5.
Got more than that.
But that's pretty dope.
Yeah,
that's pretty dope.
So
how do we make that happen? I mean,
a lot of it has been just networking, meeting people through working through production.
Sure.
So recently, it was this Tuesday actually, I did a job for the Houston Texans.
Nice.
That's gonna come out. That's gonna come out next week.
Okay.
On Thursday. They're doing their schedule release.
Oh yeah.
And so they have a lot of FPV shots built into that project.
Dope.
And they basically the whole concept of the video is like they set up like this block party kind of thing with some slabs.
Yeah.
They had people come out, and one of those people that came out was Mo Amir. Do you know who? He's a local Houston comic.
Yep.
He's got a Netflix show called Mo.
I didn't know that.
It's excellent. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
But he was there and he saw the drone flying. He was super, super into it.
Yeah.
And he approached me and was like, "Oh my God, we're filming in September. We got to have you out," And so,
ding.
Exactly. And so that's part of the whole power of networking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I drop everything.
I'm available. Yeah.
And the cool thing about Mo is that his show is all filmed with all Houston crew, so everyone is
the dopest.
Yes, that to me is because there's so much local talent. It's absolutely crazy.
It's one of the weirdest cities in my opinion. One of the weirdest big cities. That's why I have a passion project I work on. I stopped talking about it because I need to bake that cake a little bit more. But it's so interesting. It's like the biggest small city in the world.
Yes, and very underrated. Very underrated. We're
extremely
so
underrated.
much talent
In every way. Like I look, and my lane is cars, but in every way. And everybody has this weird, not weird, because it's going to come across the wrong way. Sometimes I'm not good with words, but they have like this humility about them.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Everybody's like, well, it's just, like, no. Like, even when I met you, you were like,
I struggle with that a little
I was like, what? I was like, you I don't know nobody that could do that. So anyway, I find that's cool that he, Mo's going to expose people.
That's the power of networking. It's you meet people through doing other gigs, and that's just how you grow and get more opportunities after that, and that's just sort of the way it's been. One gig leads into the next, and it just sort of snowballs.
Well, I'm always going to be cheering you on. Always. I told him when you blow up, bro, you remember Plain Jane.
Thank you. I mean, dude, Plain Jane is definitely part of my
the journey.
Yes, absolutely. Like I mentioned when we first started, we've done maybe like 13 or 14 videos together.
Hopefully you enjoyed the footage that we put in here. Hopefully the editors actually put it in for me so I don't have to do it, because I'm sure going to email it to them.
I wanted to go through some of those videos.
And maybe we can get with the guys here and see if we could do a commercial for them, man.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Because I'm always, I feel like I owe you. I really appreciate how much you helped me.
You've done more than enough. Like the exposure that I got through doing your videos, that's where
how it works, though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it works. That's how it works. It works in regular life. I guess one of the lessons, if anybody's listening, they want a little encouragement or they want advice, because we all go through these little periods where you're like, I'm not really sure what I'm doing,
Lots
where
of
I'm
doubt.
going. Doubt.
Lots of doubt.
Doubt is, kind of stay on your path. Now, if it's the wrong path, get off of it. But but if you feel like you're onto something,
Don't quit.
Don't quit.
It's all about just keep doing it.
Stick to
and
it.
Eventually, it will pop off.
You'll crack 100%. I believe in it. And I know it. I've seen it. And the coolest thing about it is when you start to realize who really supports you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of it is self-motivation and something you're passionate about. When you start seeing like, man, you got people that are really cheering you on. It's almost like the battery in your back, to use the East Coast slang. It's like, nah, I could do this. You know what I mean? It's super cool, man. I'm always enthused every time I see you do this. Just to be able to watch objectively, I'm like, yo, he doing this thing. That's so dope. Now, hopefully the listeners enjoyed, not only, like we said, if you are listening to this, thank you for listening to it. Go to YouTube, man.
Yeah, highly recommend watching this because so many good shots. Like, we've done crazy cool projects.
And I'm gonna put them in the order too. I'm gonna try to do it in the order which we work, because I mean there was some progression.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
There was some growth, man.
I was looking at it yesterday, and so the first one we did was that solo one with you, where just your car and Katie. Second one we did was at the No Label Brewery with.
Yes, that was the second one. It wasn't in the woods.
With
Arrow.
Arrow.
And who was the other car?
Dan?
Oh no, Dave. Wasn't it David Doan? Yes. I gave out his whole government.
With his red car.
So pretty.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we filmed there. The third video that we did was not the forest one. It was the one. It's still one of my favorites. It was the underground tunnel in Greenway Plaza one.
I totally forgot about that one.
Yes,
with the
Porsche.
Thanks, Joe.
Yes, and then that white,
Sam. Yes, thanks, Sam.
And then your car.
And Sean. The BMW.
Yes,
I appreciate those guys.
Yes.
Yeah. I forgot about that video. That's one of the dopest.
Was one of the first times that I started really playing with like sound design, and it really brought it to life. You know
my favorite video.
It's still one of my favorites to this day.
That's not it.
Oh, really?
I have to say that I didn't think of that one. That is a dope one.
Yes.
It's the one we did at the Chinese food spot.
The rice box? That's
when I realized you are next level. Like so the sound design that he did on this thing, as I'm actually, I think, were you driving? No, I had to be driving because you were doing the drone. You looked up a sound of like gravel under the tire, like hyper immersive. He flies his center whoop through, and there's this large ceiling fan.
Like your engine just like popping. You know,
I was like, he ready. I ain't gonna lie, because that 90 whatever it is, however long it is, and we'll definitely put that. That's my favorite.
And it's an interesting video because it's slow.
It's slow.
It's a slow video. It's not like a fast, energetic like FPV thing. You know, we did it with the center whoop.
Yep.
Kind of imitating kind of like slow gimbal movements.
Yes.
You know, and I mean the whole vibe.
My favorite
is so good.
The colors, the sound design, the mood, the vibe. That's my favorite. I'm not gonna. Every now and then I look at it because I posted it on Instagram and I put it on YouTube, of course, and I repost it to a story. I'm like, y'all don't see like y'all tripping if y'all don't think this is cool. Like, it is such a cool video.
Thank you.
Man.
Yeah,
such
I mean,
video.
great. That was, and also we filmed at night. You know, so everything was popping, the neon lights and everything.
That was my first time filming at night. I did a little bit on the gimbal and stuff like that, and I had the AP drone out. I did some AP shots.
Yeah.
I never flown. I was like, dude, how's this going? He was like, oh, it's okay. You'll be fine. I was like, you sure? You're like, well, you're getting close to those power lines. Like flying over Shepherd Road at night with a drone, like literally. Super cool, man.
No,
good times.
I love that video. And great food. That
that food was good. That food was good.
It has amazing food.
That
video, I think, I have it here. It was actually after COVID, and it was our 11th video.
Are you serious, dude?
11th video.
We worked together that much.
No,
you're right. You're right.
That much.
I was a believer. I am a believer. I shouldn't say was. I am a believer. It was just one of those things where I was like, I'm going to keep working with him and keep showing him that he is good. Not that you didn't know, but I was just like,
no, I loved it because
nobody else is doing this. Like, I don't see this anywhere else. This is so cool.
Yeah, no, and I loved it because it's like you were giving me that push to keep going out, keep getting content, keep getting creative,
and have people pay you.
Yes.
Let me go on a little rant for a second, man. You know, exposure's cool. Pay people for their talents. Exposure's cool. Like I get the whole like, oh yeah, I repost and I'll tag you. Sure. Pay people for their talents. That's what I believe. And I'm like, even if, they feel like, oh yeah, well, you're helping me out. Nah, man. Nah, pay people. Everybody wants to be paid. And that's one of the things that I thought was important to show you. Like, nah, I appreciate good hangs. I'm a cool person to be around. How much was it? Let's come up with a price and let's do, because I think that's important.
Yes.
Yeah, I personally think
that was
important.
a learning experience for me as well, because when we met, I wasn't doing it for money. I was doing it for exposure.
You were like, no, bro, it's cool. I'm like,
find a lane, know?
No, Beto. You need to charge people for this.
Yes.
Because this is like high quality. And you're doing the editing. Yeah. I mean, you're delivering a finished product.
At that point, I was.
You're delivering a finished product. Yeah. You get paid for that. That's how I feel. That's just how I feel about it.
No, I agree. Of
course you do.
Talent should be compensated.
Yeah. So, some of my listeners out there, even if it's just a tip, whatever it is, right? Be a good person. It's just the right thing to do, man. Pay these people, these photographers and these videographers. We want to keep, I always say, like, I love investing in talent. And maybe that's the corporate part of me or whatever.
That's the right way to put it, though.
I think it is. You're investing in talent. And there's no better thing to invest in than somebody's gifts, talents, and abilities. It comes back to you, I think.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. Like, I keep saying it. It's a two-way thing, Everyone sort of elevates each other, and that's why I keep doing passion projects, and I keep, because, just being around that energy, that creative energy, it's elevating.
It is,
and you grow from it.
Ooh, you coming back on, because we're gonna talk about that. I'm a believer in good and positive energy, having, putting out good. Yes. I think it doesn't always bring.
I'm with that too.
Yeah, good, bad can come back. I'm not saying it's always good, but I think you increase your odds of getting some good coming back your way, right? And you kind of keep some of that bad away, because they're not attracted to people with positive and good energy.
Absolutely.
So anybody that doesn't like me, they have the problem. I probably shouldn't have said that, but that's how I really feel. No, I'm joking. I'm clearly joking. Bro, this was a wonderful conversation.
Dude, I wish we had more time.
You gotta come back. There's so much more we could talk about.
We didn't even scratch the surface.
No.
Of all the things that we've done.
No. I want to talk about specifically like how, some of those shoots and how we, got into it and thought about it and the creative process.
Of it was on your end, like you would come up to me with these ideas of hey, let's shoot in the city or let's shoot in this location. I have this car. What can we do with this car?
Sure.
So like it very much came from your direction.
It's funny, man. Thank you. I tell you guys, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'll be honest, I don't know what I'm doing. And I've said this to...
That's why I say you're a natural. Because it just sort of, it's organic and you just
I said this to Beto, and I'll say it for the first time in public. I can see, I see things, you know what I mean? Or I'll think about things, and I can see it's like what I told him is I just struggle making it happen. Sure. And I saw he had talent and ability that I could kind of explain to him, like, wouldn't it? Because I can see the drone fly, I can see the shot, but I don't know the technical stuff, I'm not gonna lie. And I probably should spend some time learning that stuff. And there's other creators that I'm gonna have on, but I couldn't have any other creator on before I had you on. That's literally how, and I'm cool with a lot of them, but you had to be the first because you're the one, you are the reason why there's a Plain Jane Cars. And that is not an exaggeration. It's the truth.
It goes both ways.
For sure.
I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
I think you would, but I appreciate it.
I don't know. I don't think so, man.
I appreciate it.
Because we did so many projects together.
That's true. Will you say it?
Dude, so many projects.
We did.
I didn't I always knew, but I didn't realize until I sat down and started watching every single one of them. I was like, we've worked for a long, long time.
We did.
And throughout that time, it's like learning, just learning throughout the whole process, like learning how to shoot better, learning how to fly better, learning how to frame better, learning how to engage with the subject matter, in this case, cars, with my drone, and working with you just gave me that opportunity to just really learn how to do all that.
Here's one thing I'm going to give you where I'm going to agree and not disagree with you. Learning how to develop a workflow with another creator and there's a handshake.
Yes.
Because you hadn't done that up to that point.
Yes.
Because what I started saying is like, hey, because I wanted to, do some gimbal stuff, right? Because I wanted to learn. And I kind of stepped away from that a little bit. I was like, I want to learn how to create some of these cinematic looks. Right. And it wasn't to make cinematic videos. You guys will figure out this grand scheme. But we had to start figuring out what colors are you using, and we had started syncing up sound design, and we had to start syncing up like how do we want this to actually look? Exactly. And when you would deliver me your file, it would be a smooth transition between and that I would say I gave you that. I would say that because I don't know if you did it before that, right?
No, I don't think I did. I think you were the first one that really I had to learn how to work with what you're shooting.
Yes, because we did profiles. We said, well, what colors are you? Yeah. How are you? Yeah. And we kind of tried to match it as closely as possible so that the video, it actually has a flow to it, and it not people like, oh, now it's FPV, right? Exactly. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So yeah, I will agree with that. That whole workflow thing, which is a part of the lane that you go.
Exactly. It's what I do now, basically.
Massive part, right?
Huge. Anytime you're on set and you're talking with the DP or director, that's all it is. You have to get your settings right. What's the look they're going for
sure.
And what they're shooting on, so I can match it as best as possible. It's all about that.
You was getting ready without knowing you was getting ready. That is the best, man. We love to hear it. Thanks for coming on, bro.
Thanks for having me, dude.
For sure.
We got to do it again because there's too much to show.
Yo, I posted this on Instagram the other day. We have to go, but I posted on Instagram the other day. The coolest feeling about doing a podcast is getting to the end of an hour, and every guest so far says, "That was an hour." It just flies by.
Super fast.
Dopest conversations ever, man. I enjoy it. I mean it genuinely, for sure.
Me.
We appreciate having you guys on. Please, in the YouTube video, I'm going to link all of Beto's socials in a pinned comment because sometimes you guys don't go to the description. So I'm going to put in the description and a pinned comment. Check out his stuff. And if we're 2, 3, 4 degrees of separation away, if you know somebody that's trying to film, if you know somebody doing some indie projects, all that kind of stuff,
hit me up.
Hit Beto up.
I'm available, always available.
Amazing creative.
And I'll work with anyone. Don't let like all the gear kind
the
of like
drone footage and stuff. No.
Don't let it intimidate. I'll work with anyone.
He's a creative that has talent, that has an eye, that can produce the vision. I think you have some producer in you, because I feel more like kind of like a director. I can say, hey, I like this, and this. You're like, okay. And you pulled it together.
Right.
You know, so even if there's some opportunities like that, man, hit my man up for sure. And his stuff will be on the screen too if you're not watching, but I'll put it in there. Man, we got to cut it off. We keep going. There's so many people I keep saying, oh, you're going to come back. But you do have to come back.
We'll come back.
We got to talk about like what I now know is workflow. Before he was being nice enough to talk to, I was an idiot. I was like, so let's do this. You know, we're doing pre-production, post-production. We're talking through, you know, how the whole Dropbox thing. So anyway, we're going to talk through that and talk through how we came up with the ideas of some of the cool things that we shot.
Oh, yeah.
Until then, browse the channel. We appreciate you guys' support. Like, I really, really do. I appreciate the guests too, the people that are willing to come on and say, what the heck is Charles doing? I have no clue what this kid's doing.
You got to support, bro. You got to support.
I appreciate it.
That's why I'm here. You know, I love what you're doing, you know.
Thanks, man.
And there's not a lot of people who are doing it, surprisingly, here in Houston.
Again.
You know? And so,
weird.
And so I'm all about it.
I'm doing it.
I'm all about it.
I'm here for it. We appreciate you guys. You know what? We're going to end it off there. And I always say we'll see you guys in the next episode.